Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you to TravelGyaan Initiative Online Travel Summit 2020. Thank you for joining in. I am Nikita Rawtani from TravelGyaan. We have two speakers with us today, Aman Kaushik and Sumit Shabra. Before we start, I would request the audience to please grab your headphones for enhanced audio quality. Now, a little about Aman and Sumit. Aman has over 20 years of hands-on experience in customer service, leadership, account management, sales, franchisee development, and e-commerce prior to his current role as a consultant. Aman will share insights on what role will emotional intelligence play in crisis management. Sumit is a certified chartered accountant, and he has worked with Citibank for many years. Sumit now runs his own successful chartered accountant and audit company which specializes in travel and non-travel business. Sumit will throw light on how to decode the financial package for the tourism industry based on the recent developments. Feel free to type in any questions you may have for Aman and Sumit, and we will take this up at the end. A certificate of participation will be awarded to all attendees. Stay tuned and enjoy the learning. Over to you, Aman.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Aman Kaushik. I run this training and consulting company called Fulcrum Push. Today I am talking on a subject which is very, very close to my heart. And I do believe very strongly in it that by being emotionally intelligent, we can all manage not just our life better, but also our businesses better. So let me start with slide one. Now, slide one belongs to one of my favorite person, I would say, in history and in life. His name is Charles Darwin. And one of his most famous work is obviously on evolution. But one thing I really like about him is that it is not the species which have been most strong or the most powerful which have been able to survive and evolve, but it is the species which have been able to adapt to change, who have been flexible, who can work around their limitation and use their strengths to move forward. Having said that, one big area on which I personally feel every business depends upon is obviously the knowledge, the intelligence. But more than that, there is something which I call emotional intelligence. It is a very common word nowadays. But before I talk about emotional intelligence, I would like to talk about a bit on change first, to borrow from Charles Darwin. Change is something which is we all, human mind loves to work in a parallel environment, in an environment where it knows what's going to happen next. If you've seen a tiger in a cage, you will find even they go through a specific pattern. We understand, our brains are programmed to understand patterns. So you see a tiger walking in the cage, few steps and going back. And if you take that cage back and put him into another cage, it will have a lot of challenge to adapt to the new cage. Similarly with human mind. Change is something which we all fear, though we have a choice to love or fear the change. But it is the survival instinct in us which fears the change. Why I say it is survival to fear the change? Because we are, if I can use the evolution theory back again, we are descendants of the people who did not took change or fear lightly. We took an action. If they saw something which looked like a tiger, they did not contemplate it too much thinking whether it is a tiger or not. They first got fearful and they just climbed on the nearest tree and survived. So we are descendants of the people who survived. And that is part of our brain that we all fear change. And you can see that there is a change happening in industry, in the society, in the global world. There is a change which we don't know much about, and our brains are programmed to fear that. Our minds have, I'm sure most of you will be have spent some nights in last few couple of days where you are thinking about what will happen to us, what will happen to me particularly, and what will happen to human society as a whole. Our mind has the capability of extrapolating the change. Extrapolating the fear, I should say. It can, if the fear is X, it can multiply it into multiple X. Reason being, because that's the way human mind is able to survive us, right? So how do we control that, and how do we manage that? So let's start with, change can cause a lot of things. It can cause the loss of fear. We can lose what we have acquired. Suddenly all our efforts and commitments we suddenly feel that they are not adequate enough, and it requires a lot from us. It requires us to compromise, it requires us to restart, it requires us different type of energy. So we fear that, are we able to do that back again? When we started our businesses, travel businesses, somebody started 2 years back and somebody started 15 years back. We all put in a lot of stuff, or a lot of energy, and a lot of our own money and our own blood and sweat. And we somehow started fearing that we may have to do it again. And our mind says, can we do it or not? Change can be very, very difficult, right? It can be difficult because everybody would like to avoid change, like I said earlier, right? It will take a lot of time and effort, and our brain would somehow say, give me my old world back, right? We all want to go back and say, can we start from the same place where we left it 15 days back? We don't know when there's somebody very interesting asked this question, can we answer when it's going to restart? I wish I can. If I can be an astrologer and I can answer that. Nobody can answer that, unfortunately, at the moment. In fact, our travel businesses are a little bit more complicated. Lockdown has happened on 25th of March, but I think travel agency got locked down almost 15 days earlier, because all the bookings which were there stopped coming, and all the calling which were coming were cancellation of the booking. And in fact, I think we would be the one who will start in the end. So if the lockdown finish on X date, traveler won't start traveling before X plus some days, right? Business traveler may be a little earlier, but leisure traveler definitely will take a lot of time, trust, and confidence to move forward. So we want it to happen as fast as possible. Unfortunately, it won't happen the way we want it. So how do we manage our thought process? How do we take the negativity out? One way of doing it can be emotional intelligence, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. Again, our brain expects certain things to stay the same. In theory, change should be simple. We were going somewhere, and we found we found a different thing. We did not expect it to be there, and we say, okay, let me find a way out. But generally, brain doesn't work that way. Brain wants things to be the way they were, and it fears change. And how do we manage those fears? We'll talk about on emotional intelligence. Change can be difficult. We generally think in black and white, positive and negative. And we somehow have this feeling this change is negative. But on the other hand, when we have seen throughout human history, changes have brought in the best in human beings. Changes have brought in the best what humans can do. During Second World War, everybody thought that world will end. Not here in Asia or in our part in India, because we were a little bit immune to that world war. But people in Europe thought that world will end. It didn't. In fact, post Second World War, the world progressed like it had never done before that. So again, I believe very strongly that I think we will find some ways to overcome this and have more better businesses and more better life. But one thing we have to be very, very sure of is that how do we train our mind to think positive? I understand always thinking positive is not easy. It's easier said than done. Our brain Actually, we are two people, I and me, right? And me is my subconscious, while I is my conscious. My subconscious works in a different manner. It is definitely more powerful than I. So it keeps on feeding a lot of stuff to I, which I continuously keep on telling, and that understanding becomes concrete. So if you want to change something in your I, you have to start talking to your subconscious, which is me, right? And emotional intelligence is actually a very good term. I mean, it's a new term in terms of term, but I personally feel it's there for ages, and it may not be as that term, but some people whom we really call mature. Somebody in your family who understands life more than us or seen more than us, if you go to them today and say, this is end of the world, I think they would laugh it off and say, this is nothing we have seen worse, right? And they will tell you, and we call them more mature, right? They can be our father and mother, or maybe somebody in our relationships. What we are saying is that they are more emotionally intelligent than us, or I may be that person who's more emotionally intelligent. So I want to take you a little bit more further on what is emotionally intelligence. So emotional intelligence has many definitions, but the most important part of emotional intelligence is, do I understand my emotions? And do I know when these emotions kicks in? Do I know how to manage those emotions? And sometimes those emotions have this capability of taking away my ability to think. Because I am, so people think emotionally, people think with lot of logic and logically, but I think the actual thinking, like what we call rational. Rational is when emotion meets logic. And some of the time our fears or our powerful emotions like anxiousness, fearful, angry, surprise, they may take away. I mean, and they're happy emotions like loving and happy, and they can be very happy emotions, very powerful. But some of our emotions are also, which we can call negative emotions, like being fearful, being angry, being sad, being overwhelmed. And when these emotions take over us, most of us stops thinking. The reason being biological, and I'll talk about it in few slides from now. A little bit more on what is emotional intelligence. There are 5 competencies. There are 5 ways you can be emotionally intelligent, and I'll talk about a lot on the first one today. First one is the self-awareness. Do you know who you are? We become what stories we tell ourselves. If I keep on telling myself that world will end, if I keep on myself that nothing will happen, if I keep on telling myself this, and all of this I say because of an emotional grip which has been taken over me, right? So are you aware of your self-emotions? Very, very important. You can't say, I generally get angry because somebody is making me angry. You have to accept the fact that sometimes some of us do get angry, and which is fine. You can get angry, but question is your anger is taking over your rational side or not, right? Is it taking over your logical thinking? Like, for example, I am driving on the road and somebody cuts me. I will get angry, and people have this tendency to say a lot of stuff, even when the windows are rolled on. I still want to say something. Sometimes people react, and it's okay. It's just get over. But sometimes people go beyond that. They actually start driving crazily behind those cars and stop those cars. And we have cases where people have killed people on a road rage. And if you ask those people who are sitting in the jail and say, did you do the right thing? Most of them say, I don't know what happened to me. What gripped me? I lost my control. When we are saying lost control, we are actually saying I have lost control over my emotions. I let my emotions. So human being, one big difference between human being and animal is we are highly emotional. Animals are not that emotional, right? It's not that they don't feel pain. but they don't think about pain too much. They cannot be sad by thinking about pain. If they get pain, they will be feeling pain. We can actually write a novel and a ballad on a pain I have felt. And obviously, they don't feel pain for things which we can feel pain for, like ego hurt, for example, right? Like future, tomorrow. Humans have the capability of thinking beyond a specific time period, right? Animals think in transaction. Whatever happening to them, they think about that more than what will happen to me. If they find food, they are happy. If they don't find food, they're unhappy. I may find food and still feel unhappy because I feel 10 days down the line, I won't find the same food again, and I can feel sad about it. So do I understand? Am I aware of my own emotion? How do I get angry? What are my triggers by which I get angry? And then separate the emotional thinking and think logically. So for example, at the moment I may be self-thinking about this work. I think travel business is doomsday. But my logical thinking will get crowded. If I start thinking logically, I will realize there are many ways in which it is not true what I'm thinking. It is my fear which is making me react in that manner. Second component of emotional intelligence is self-regulation. You know how you get trigger into, or what triggers the panic in you, and then you know how do you control that. One, you obviously start thinking about more. You let your emotions subside. You sleep over it. You understand, talk to people who know more than you. There are many ways to self-regulate. Third way is motivated. You are always motivated to, because if you don't keep yourself motivated, for example, if I feel that I don't listen or I get angry, I'm aware of it. That's the first part. I control it. I know situations when I can get angry. I keep myself motivated by saying, no, I can do very, very well. Fourth is a little bit different, which is empathy. They can understand things from other people's perspective. And finally, that they have social skills. At the moment, social skills is something which is limited to what we call digital world, but they have the social skills. They can meet people, create a network, and all that stuff. A little bit more now on our emotions and the biology. So human brain is a very complex organ, in fact, the most complex organ. And it has many parts. I don't want to give you a biology lesson here, that it has, many parts, but two parts I would like to talk about. One is called the cortex and one is called amygdala, right? So amygdala, which is a lizard brain, which is a reptile brain, is where the emotions get processed first. It's the part of that brain which was there even when we were jumping from one branch of a tree to another branch. It helps us survive. It manages our reaction. It helps reacting to any danger fast. And people who actually managed by amygdala very, very well, it works in like billionth of a second, right? If we see a truck coming towards our side, we don't think about the truck too much. We try to save ourselves. And amygdala helps us do that. It builds that energy into our body, and we survive. Sometimes it works very, very well, and it works phenomenally well by and large, right? It is a need. We still need it in spite of not being in a jungle or danger being eaten, but it still is there. It works in situation where our brain feels there is a danger, and these dangers can be any. This danger can be somebody shouting at us. This danger can be somebody saying you are worthless. This danger can be a situation like which we are facing as now. All of these dangers, amygdala thinks that they are the danger to our survival itself, and we call that amygdala hijack or emotional hijack. What happens worse is, because amygdala works in a specific process. So as soon as it sees a danger, first thing it does is that it switches off our thinking brain, which is the cortex, because it knows thinking is time consuming. And if you think too much, you will die. Assume that somebody start thinking about a man walks in with an axe and somebody start thinking rather than, or you are being hounded by a dog and you start thinking about the breed of the dog, you will get bitten and you will be in a danger of dying. Amygdala says don't think. So first thing it does is it switches off the thinking brain. Two, it builds up energy in our legs, in our arms. So if we need to fight, we fight, or if we need to run, we run. Right? It builds that energy, secretes the energy hormone. Third, it focuses on danger too much, because it says that if I do defocus and think or move my eyes somewhere else, I will be eaten. So it will focus on to the tiger, say for example. What it will do is it takes all the blood out of your system from everywhere and pushes into places where it is required the most, and you feel dehydrated. So it will. So if you visualize now a man in anger, you will understand all the things that I have just said. उसकी सोचने समझने की शक्ति खत्म हो चुकी होती है, उसका energy level बहुत high होता है, and the person is saying, I'm ready to give it all. Now, it works. It worked, and it works in many situations when the life is actually in danger. But it may not work, and in fact work counter in today's world when danger is not onto the survival, but actually there is a danger. But that danger can be managed by managing this emotion of fear and anger and frustration, but by thinking more clearly. What do I do? What should I do? How will I restart my business? What are the various things which I need to require to restart my business? That thinking has to come, because that's the only way this business or we will move forward. I've talked about withstanding the hijack, but first thing we need to understand that we are in a hijack position. Our amygdala is hijacking us. And that point of time, self-understanding, self-control will play a huge role in us in surviving. I have a small video here, which I would like to play. Nikita, will you play that?
Since the dawn of humanity, the understanding of well-being and rational decision-making has remained relatively unchanged. However, recent discoveries in neuroscience and psychology may fundamentally change long-held theories about emotions and reasoning. One recent study analyzed patients who had experienced damage to the amygdala, a primitive part of the brain that typically regulates emotions. What they discovered was that these patients had often lost their ability to feel emotions and make basic decisions. The implication of this discovery is that our decisions are not determined simply by logic or emotions alone, but rather a combination of the two. When we make a bad decision that affects our well-being, it is typically caused by an imbalance between our reasoning and our emotions. This process of understanding and facilitating emotions into rational thinking is known as emotional intelligence. Originally developed in 1990 by John Mayer, David Caruso, and Peter Salovey, the theory of emotional intelligence can be broken down into 4 simple aspects. 1. The ability to perceive emotion. For humans, cues like facial expressions and gestures can indicate complex emotions that influence our understanding of other people, such as happiness, sadness, anger, and fear. 2. Understanding emotions. Emotions convey information. For example, happiness usually indicates a desire to join with other people. Sadness indicates a desire to avoid people, and so on. Each emotion conveys its own patterns of possible messages and actions associated with those messages. 3. Using emotions to facilitate thought. In recent years, cognitive scientists have discovered that emotions prioritize our thinking. Therefore, having a good system of emotional input can help you focus on things that truly matter. 4. Managing emotions. Managing emotions involves the ability to promote certain types of behavior through emotions and using them to your advantage. For example, if you're sad, you're more likely to be reflective and analytical. If you are happy, you're more likely to be social and outgoing. These 4 aspects that make up emotional intelligence inform our decisions, help predict life outcomes, and help us understand people in order to build healthy relationships.
Okay. So before I move a little bit more on to this, I would like to talk about IQ and EQ. We all understand what IQ is. So IQ is an intelligence to understand information, process it, and disseminate it. That's information, IQ. Without IQ, we won't be able to learn a new skill. We will not be able to learn something new. So if you tell your child that this is an apple, now that's the information given to someone, and the child reverts back, and whenever it sees an apple, it says, "Dad, an apple." And he says, "Oh, my son is very intelligent," which is true. So intelligence is very, very important. But what has been seen in the world is that while intelligence helps us to acquire knowledge, our life works a little bit differently. So, I do it in my lot of sessions, and I ask, should we work on our IQ? Yes, we should. But unfortunately, we can't do much about our IQ. The research shows that our IQ gets stable, or it acquires a specific IQ at the age of 7. After that, nothing much can be done with IQ. If maths is something which you really, really love, or you get scared at the age of 7, the chances at the 40 you will still be scared by maths, or you would love maths. So if you can't solve puzzles, if you find puzzles to be very, difficult puzzles to be solving very difficult, you will find at the age of 40 also the same thing. Generally, most of us, the world is made of people who have, I would say, an average. Average is not bad, but average here is, average means average. Most of the world have a similar average IQ, while some of humans have really high level of an IQs, and some of humans, unfortunately, may not be having that level of an IQ. They will find difficult to even understand a basic concept. Having said that, it's not such a bad thing, because our success, fortunately, doesn't depend only on IQ. Our success depends upon many things, and the most important part seems to be emotional intelligence. So I may have a very high IQ, but if I have a low emotional intelligence, success of me will be lesser than you, for example, who may have average intelligence but a very high EQ. And the best part about EQ or emotional intelligence is that you can work upon it throughout your life, provided you are ready to work, provided you are ready to understand, provided you don't lie to yourself, provided you talk positive things to yourself. It's like there was this old Japanese man who was talking to his grandson and says, "Son, we have 2 wolves inside us, a good wolf and a bad wolf. And they keep on fighting with each other. They keep on, trying to win over each other. And we become the person who actually wins." So the grandson got curious and said, "And Grandpa, which wolf win?" And this guy say, "The one we feed more." So if we feed that will win over us, and we will become that. And if we feed our good wolf more, then we will become that. We need to understand we have emotions and everyone else has emotions. If we do not handle our emotions, our capability of handling other people's emotion goes down. And when we don't handle emotions first, what happens is that people don't react or don't work the way, or people don't relate with us in the manner they should be relating. If I just keep on thinking that word works because of the money, word works only because it works. It's not that it doesn't. But eventually, humans work because of the emotion. We forget what is given to us. We forget what is told to us. We forget everything, but we never forget how did we made or how did we felt at that point of time. Every feeling gets stored in us. So it is important that we manage our feelings well. If we can manage our feelings well, chances are that we will be able to handle any situation. And situation which we are going through now, there are people who have committed suicides. I mean, the German finance minister of a province, of the Frankfurt province, has committed suicide. He could not handle the emotions, right? He thought that world will end. Why do I end my life before the world ends? Now, how can it be? How ironical it can be that I am fearful of the end, so I end myself earlier than that. His emotions got of sorrow, of sadness, of anguish got over him. Only thing I'm saying is there's something which we can't change. We cannot, we cannot go back and say, oh my God, if this bat would not have gone into that pangolin and somebody would not have eaten that pangolin, that COVID virus or the coronavirus would not have spread throughout the world and the world was going well. We can't do that, right? It's impossible for us. But what can be with us is that we understand there is a life beyond this. How do I manage that life? I have done it enough in my life. I continue shining myself and doing better. That reassurance is very, very important. EQ is the most important thing which helps us to change. First thing is that we understand that we have seen many, many changes in life. Sometimes, the one big reason people are so fearful about it because if they feel that they will lose something. They feel, many crises happen. There were worse crises than that in India and all over the world. Thus, at that point of time, I mean, when we think of those crises today, we think maybe a little bit positively about them. I'm sure year down the line, we all would be laughing about the coronavirus and, the life we had and the thing which we are able to do during those 21 or 30 or 40 days, which we were not able to do earlier. Only thing is that we have to live this 21, 30, 40 days and then start fresh. Again, we have seen many, many changes. We have business gone down. We have broken partnership. We have seen death of a relative. We have seen uncertain business environment. GST came, demonetization happened, and we felt that, when demonetization happened, many travel agents said, what will we do? When GST happened, we said, this business will go away. We have nothing left. We don't understand GST and A, B, C, D, F, G, H. And in fact, the data proves little bit differently. So change is constant. What we need to do is being flexible, believe in our self-worth, having a plan and keeping focus. Ask for help from peers and friends and see what they can do. Now, for example, your next session which Sumit will be doing is mainly on how do we make the best out of the financial aid package announced by the government of India. Is there something for us? And if there is something, how we can make the best out of it. Emotional intelligence is the most important thing, I believe, which will help us through this change, not just now, but once the business starts back again. We need to plan, we need to move forward, we need to understand and use the emotional intelligence to move forward in leading our businesses to the next height. Abandon a road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. Well said by someone, and I do believe in it completely. If we do not ride the change, the wave of change, we may be beneath it. And the one which is very, 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 very close to my heart is the things we can't change end up changing us. And I do believe that this calamity or this pandemic is going to change human society. But somehow the positive or the enthusiast, or I would say the person in me says this is going to be better. Somebody can say, Aman, this may be easier for you, difficult for someone else, and I completely agree with that. Having said that, I am me, and there's one person I can control the best, and that's me. And if I can take care of that person, if I can work hard, if I can move forward, if I can understand, I think I will be a better person post this pandemic, for sure. I'm very, very confident about myself, and that I will be definitely a better person than what I was, I would say, on 24th of March. And I'm sure that all of you will be. I'll again leave my stuff with you. I have a company called Fulcrum Push, and my email is aman@fulcrumpush.com. Phone number is even there. I'll be more than happy if there is something I can do ever for you. You can write to me, you can send me a mail, you can send me a message. Apart from information which nobody has, I think I'll be able to help you with most of the stuff. Thank you very, very much. And I'll ask Sumit to come over. Nikita, are you there?
Yes, Aman, I'm there. Aman, thank you so much for the brilliant training on how crucial it is to be emotionally intelligent at times like these. And now that,
sure.
Now is the best time to understand the importance of emotional intelligence, especially in a situation
sure.
that we are currently in, which is beyond our control.
Mm-hmm.
And you have given us an example, and you've given us amazing examples on how we take charge and how to make decisions, and depending on how emotionally intelligent we are during such times. So thank you so much for this. And while we are at it and emotionally taking charge of ourselves, I would now like to call upon Sumit to deliver his training on how to decode the financial impacts of the tourism industry. Sumit, may I have you here, please?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm there online, Nikita. Thank you very much. A big hello to everyone, and a very, very good evening. As much you spent almost last 45 minutes trying to understand that change is the only constant. I kind of get that, but practically speaking, we cannot deny that business or industry loves certainty and predictability. Unfortunately, we have been hit by an unprecedented amount and maybe, a width and depth of uncertainty. And in that sense, this lockdown is definitely very, very disturbing and confusing. I also appreciate that the travel trade has been hit particularly hard by not just on account of the lockdown, but its consequent uncertainty and anxiety. It has also been hit hard by certain other related and unrelated factors, such as, as Aman described, a significant drop in turnover for foreseeable future, a lot of predictable and unpredictable forex volatility. Now, and I'm sure people expect sooner or later, some of the vendors and customers may also stop functioning efficiently or altogether. Now, as somebody from the finance side, I can only share my views on things that can be done. Obviously, as Aman mentioned, nobody can turn the clock back. Nobody can predict when it comes to an end. We can all make our guesses. My guess can be more informed than yours, and I'll be happy to share my guess. But eventually, I must say that at least for the forex fluctuation bit, you must try your hand at hedging your forex risk. Good thing about it, about the current volatility, is that it's unidirectional. Now, I understand somebody from finance amongst all of you can ask me a question that hedging has never been a suitable option for importers. But and mostly, I'm presuming most of you will be outbound and few of you will be inbound. But since in the circumstances where the forex volatility is actually unidirectional, hedging can be a good tool. Anyway, now coming to what the government has done for us. Well, the government has come out with some ease of compliance package, which is quite good and quite all-encompassing. I may also, I may not be able to say the same thing for the economic package. Now, just give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Yeah. Now, coming to the compliance package, let me tell you that it is quite all-encompassing in the sense that almost everything that you can think is covered. Almost every deadline has been extended to 30th of June. Actually speaking, by the spirit of what the finance minister had to say, she covered almost every excuse that you can come up with in the law for a compliance, and she said that everything got extended. I have enumerated here in this slide few of the things which are relevant. All TDS and TCS deposit, all return filing, all equalization levy. If some of you go for search engine optimization and some Google AdWord expenses, then this will be applicable to you. Certain STT may not be applicable to all of you. Anybody who is participating in the Vivad Se Vishwas declaration, you must be aware that any declaration after 31st of March would have entailed an additional 10% taxation. That additional 10% has been waived off till 30th of June. GST 1, 3B, everything has been postponed. In fact, 9 and 9C, the annual returns of 18-19, continue to remain on 30th of June, but we hold a very strong view that it will be extended further. Anybody who is appealing against a particular order or seeking an appeal against a refund or seeking a refund for an export turnover under GST, and if it was getting time barred on 31st of March, it has gotten extended to 30th of June. They have also done something which I've appreciated. The TDS returns, the late interest has come down from 18% to 9% per annum. Obviously, the few things for the average layman, there'll be no minimum average balance, no quarterly average balance in banks for 3 months, no bank charges for debit card usage on another bank's ATM, which used to be there. For firms, in fact, for firms less than 5 crores, they have completely waived the interest on late payments. No penalty prosecution. There are provisions, by the way, rarely used, but there are provisions where you can actually be prosecuted for criminal offense also if you pay late. Those provisions have been made dormant till 30th of June. The insolvency application, there was a provision in the IBC code that for any bill more than 1 lakh of rupee, somebody can take you to the bankruptcy code for non-payment. That amount has been increased to 1 crore. Now, coming to the economic package, I guess all of you would have read about it. But let me share with you some of my experiences of actually talking to a lot of bankers over the last 2-3 days. So when the press conference happened, not much clarity was there. It came out as a moratorium of 3 months, which has been allowed to the banks. Okay, they had facilitated by policy to allow the banks not to report NPA for non-payment of these 3 months EMI or interest. Now that was very confusing for us, and that entailed a lot of conversations and a lot of phone calls to senior bankers. And the clarity that has come out, and obviously now probably on the 3rd of April, a lot of it is already there on YouTube. Now the first clarity that we've got is it's not a waiver or either a principal or interest, it's just a deferment. Now, the deferment in case of term loan would mean that the tenor would get increased by not just the 3 months, but the interest portion of that. So let's say your balance, your total number of EMIs were 60, 36 had gone by, so 24 were left. You missed the 3 EMIs, so actually you should be now paying 20. It will extend by 3 months, so not 24 months but 27 months. However, there might be a 28th month EMI for the balance interest, which will be calculated on a compounding at a compounding basis for these 3 months. Now, the other clarity that we've got is that 3 months does not mean April, May, and June. It means March, April, and May. And 1st of June, it will be business as usual. If it is a CC limit or an OD limit, it will be, on a specific request basis and not really on automated basis. Actually, most of the banks, even for term loans, have now gone for the manual and non-automatic method. So if somebody is choosing not to, they are debiting the EMIs. A lot of banks, by the way, haven't even come out with their FAQs. They're slow. I can name Citibank for that matter. I used to work with Citibank at one point in time, but they haven't come out with any of their FAQs or clarity or circular to their borrowers about how to avail the moratorium. Now, at least I have seen the FAQs and the circular of SBI, ICICI, HDFC, and most of them have covered auto loans, home loans, LAPs, car loans, credit cards, everything. For working capital, the clarity is on across the board that even for SBI, they have come out with the option that if the case is already past due, we will decide on a case-by-case merit basis. And we will not really do it across the board. I would also say that, for the tourism trade, a lot of people are saying that, we should come out with some plan, something for the aviation industry, something for travel agents, something for the hotels. However, none of it is actually currently in public domain, and hence, I have very little to share on that part. This comes me to the end of my presentation. So it's a small one because I am available to all of you for any kind of questions. My phone number, my email is there on the slide in front of you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you for sharing light on the impact of the financial impact for the tourism industry. There are a few questions asked by the audience, so I'll take it up with you. And if they are relevant and if the questions are something that you have an answer to, we would love to listen to your views. So the first question is, just give me a second, please. Okay, so Mr. Vikas Kumar from Corporate Photo Stock, he says, all these announcements seem to be more for the ease of the government or the defaulting delaying payers. For those who have been compliant with payments and compliance timelines, what is the stimulus from the government? Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I can answer that, but unfortunately not in a very affirmative way. Vikas, your question is very relevant. I understand the question that somebody who's expecting a refund, for example, somebody who's paid his taxes on time and may would if the moratorium or if the ease of compliance was announced 2 days earlier, he would not have paid. Now, I quite agree with your question. However, there's nothing that the government has announced as of now, and maybe we can put it out on their social media platforms that this is a relevant. There's a relevant segment of population. Now, I said that because you seem to be impacted by it, but the government does not think that way. So the taxation revenue that has already come in its pocket, it may not really be very keen to refund. And anyway, the refund process is very, very tedious.
Yes, thank you so much. There's one more question from Mr. Rajiv Jain. What he wants to know is the present relaxation also beneficial for NRIs? And if it is, then what is and the other question that he asks is, what is the last date of income tax returns for NRIs?
NRIs income is taxable. Only the income which they earned out of India is taxable for NRIs, and for that limited purpose, the deadlines remain the same for resident and non-resident Indians. Any extension of deadlines which is announced for resident Indians is equally applicable to non-residents. So that should probably answer your question. There's hardly any difference between, the treatment of residents and non-residents as far as taxation laws are concerned.
Great. That's great news for both the NRIs and this, that they treated equally. This takes care of the questions for you. Now we have questions on the common question. And the first question is from Anu Rayani. She wants to know, what could be your suggestion for startups at this time, since this is more challenging scenario even for existing organizations to handle the customers emotionally?
That's a great question, Diksha, but I think there are two ways of it. One is it a good time for a startup? I think financially, yes, because some of your competition will get wiped off because of this challenge. Some will remain, and emotionally, I think asking anybody to travel now will be a bit difficult for anyone, a startup or an existing one. You have to give people time to get confident in traveling first, and once they travel, I think you will be in a position to ask for business and ask for, would you like to travel? But definitely, if there is a possibility, I think travelers would like to go back to their existing travel agent back if they have handled them well during this period of the torment.
Thank you. The other question is from Diksha Batra from Genting Cruise Line. She wants to know what she wants to know is, emotions are always changing from positive to negative and vice versa. How does one control the speed of this roller coaster to optimize your EQ?
So I don't think we can control the roller coaster, but we can control the reaction to the roller coaster. So we actually move from thinking positive and thinking negative and thinking positive and thinking negative. I think that's a fair point. Having said that, emotional intelligence is not about it's about focusing on your own emotions. It's about focusing, am I reacting to these information or these things which are happening to me, am I thinking logically and reacting to them, or I'm reacting first and then saying, oh, what I've done? So emotional intelligence is about controlling, understanding your emotions and managing your emotions. It's all about that. It's not. And again, you can. It's more to do what are managing our reaction actually.
Great. Now, the last question is from Mr. Ashok Rohela from Atlas Holidays, and he wants to know, how can we understand an emotional mind? If you could throw some light on that.
How can
understand an emotional mind? How can we understand an emotional mind?
I have not understood the correct question, or it's not being framed in a right manner. So if the gentleman wanted to ask, how do we understand our emotions? I can definitely answer that. There's a difference between being emotional and being sensitive. Sensitive is when we are unable to manage our emotions. Emotional is that we have emotions. So we all have emotions. Now, question is, whenever we go through a river or a stream of emotions, do we have the ability to, I call it a capability of when you can separate yourself from you. For example, if I can see myself outside my body and I can say, here is Aman, this is what is happening to him. Is he reacting right or is he not reacting right? If I can have that capability, if I can build that capability and say, am I reacting because I want to react, or I am reacting because this is the right reaction? That capability, if you build, that's understanding your emotion. I ask many people a question. They should ask that question. The action which I am taking, will I be taking the same action if I am not emotionally charged? That's the question people need to ask. So when somebody says something to you, you may do many things. You may walk away. You may pick something and throw at that person. You may do many things. Now, if you can ask yourself, am I doing it because I want to do it, or I am doing it because this is the right thing to do it? And that separation is what we need if we want to be an emotionally intelligent person.
Wow. Thank you, Aman. That's so beautiful. This actually takes care of Q&A. We have a lot more questions pouring in, but due to paucity of time, what we will do is we will take these questions offhand and probably share it with Aman, who can then write to you. That was a great takeaway for the audience too. Thank you so much, both Aman and Sumit, for coming in today and sharing your insights and all the information that we definitely wanted and were seeking at this point in time. I would also like to thank our amazing audience for joining us. Our next training is on 7th April at 3 p.m. and our speaker is Dan Chappelle from USA. Dan is a best-selling author of the book, How to Get Your Shit Together, and he trains within the tourism industry. You will learn a very interesting topic, Acres of Diamonds, which simplifies how to tap into referrals to find your most loyal and profitable clients. So guys, we will see you on 7th April. Until then, stay safe, stay in, and stay healthy. This is Nikita Rawtani signing off. Take care.